Welcome to the Control Engineering webcast, Plug and Play Peripherals for Collaborative Robots, sponsored by Universal Robots. I'm your moderator, Mark Hosky, and I'm happy to join you today on behalf of Control Engineering and CFE Media. Here are some tips to get the most from today's webcast. If you're experiencing issues with your slides or audio, refresh your browser or click the Refresh Media button directly under the presenter's picture. You can control the volume of the webcast by adjusting the volume on your computer or by adjusting the volume on the webcast platform. If you're having technical problems with the audio or the slide presentation, click on the question mark at the top right corner of the screen to access a list of system checks to try before contacting an online technician. But if you do need a technician, please type a message in the Ask a Question box and someone will get to you as quickly as possible. Individual technical questions will be answered in the Answered Questions box. Type answers for our questions for our speakers in the Ask a Question box on the left side of your screen. The live Q&A session will begin right after the presentation concludes. Today's webcast is being recorded. You will receive an email within a week with the link to the on-demand webcast event. To download a certificate of completion and a PDF copy of the presentation, use the Event Resources tab on the left side of your screen. Those documents will also be available with the on-demand version of the webcast. I'm happy to introduce today's distinguished speaker, Ewing. As UR Plus product manager for Universal Robots, Ewing manages the onboarding and development of ecosystem partners, including manufacturers of plug-and-play end-of-arm tooling, vision systems, software, and accessories. Prior to assuming this role, managed sales for Universal Robots in the South Central U.S. Also held various positions in the product management and sales in the oil and gas industry with Schlumberger, as well as a consulting role with Cohen Resnick. Thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you all for joining us today, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Ewing, and I'm going to speak with you about how changes in modern manufacturing have driven the need for plug-and-play peripherals and why this is important in our industry these days. We will also cover what the definition of plug-and-play actually means and how Universal Robots specifically facilitates the development of these products within our cobot ecosystem. Now, it's no secret that we're seeing drastic changes to the automation business these days. Even though robots have been around and deployed in commercial production environments for decades, the technology has not really changed all that much until recently. A great deal of the reason behind this is our customers' needs are changing very rapidly. Product life cycles are decreasing, required lead times are decreasing, and at the same time, the need for customization and flexibility in production is becoming more important, coupled with increasing competitiveness amongst manufacturers for both customers and available workers. Now, all this pressure has created a unique problem for the automation industry, typically geared towards major projects involving low-mix and high-volume production. Now, this is obviously creating quite a bit of pressure on our marketplace to evolve. These days, key considerations with traditional robot installations, shown on the left side of the screen, need to change, and we need to think differently. This is an opportunity for something new and really the genesis of the cobot. Today we'll focus on two important factors here that specifically relate to plug-and-play peripherals and what that actually means for our customers. Now, in addition to what's shown on the screen today, we're really going to focus on fast setup and simple programming. Fast delivery and setup is something that's traditionally been overlooked in the industrial robot market. Due to the planning involved for large, low-mix, high-volume projects, lead times of months and even years are sometimes acceptable for projects. In addition, for part runs expected to last for many years, redeployment and reconfiguration were not extremely common considerations as they are today. However, with today's technology, we're now able to deploy robots literally within hours. This creates significant business opportunities in areas where automation previously didn't make sense before today's technology. Simple programming is another key factor when it comes to deployment of robot systems, especially cobots. Traditional large customers often invested heavily in training and maintenance for their robot cells. In order to access a new type of customer, we need to make this as simple and as easy as possible for various employees with different levels of expertise, as well as companies of all sizes. What we've done to address this in the marketplace is taken the majority of the pain points with traditional robots, and through the design of the robot and operating systems, we've reached a point where robotic automation is now accessible to a much wider customer base than was previously served. Difficulty to set up and high programming experience required, need for safety fences, numerous additional integration costs. With collaborative robots, now they're fast to set up, nearly anyone can program them, they're flexible to deploy with excellent minimum space requirements, they can collaborate usually with side by side with humans, and are extremely cost effective with fast payback. Now that being said, we also realize that making this transformation for the robot technology in isolation isn't going to get the job done for customers. We needed a way to expand this concept into the peripheral space. Now for the business owner, accomplishing this means a couple of things. The first thing to consider is the time spent getting started on the application. As a customer, who do I even contact to find out what peripherals I need in the first place? Time spent doing this research and Googling is time not spent taking advantage of the benefits of automation. In addition, when we're talking about a robot that can be set up in a matter of days or even hours, the speed of setup is critically important, and that means getting the robot and associated peripherals up and running as fast as possible is more critical. In many cases, we see our customers achieving an ROI in less than a year. Now, of course, speed and the amount of return are closely related. Time is money, right? We also need to consider what this does to the bottom line and how that accelerates ROI. Plug-and-play peripherals directly impact the amount of return on investment by lowering cost and risk of implementation. Plug-and-play peripherals make setup costs not only lower, but also much more predictable. Once again, it helps our customers make the decision to automate more easily and confidently and start taking advantage of those benefits much sooner. Finally, there is the impact on flexibility. Due to lower changeover costs and external support requirements, our customers are using plug-and-play peripherals with universal robots and no longer tied to their original cell design. And should their business needs change, they can quickly adjust to those changing needs and maximize the utilization of their robot asset. Just as importantly, they can typically do this themselves and are on their own schedule, putting the customer back in the driver's seat of their own asset. So now with a combination of simple and used robots and plug-and-play peripherals, essentially we've transformed a fixed, custom-designed robot cell into a flexible tool for automation. Now let's start to understand just exactly what constitutes a plug-and-play peripheral. The first thing to discuss is hardware. Hardware is one of the most basic requirements, but also one of the most critical. I'll discuss plug-and-play in terms of customer experience at many points during this presentation, but essentially we want our customers to have an unboxing and setup experience that's predictable, cost-effective, and fast. This means ensuring everything that is needed to connect the peripheral is included in the box. When deployment times are measured in hours or days, any trips to Home Depot or cases where the customer has to unexpectedly order a component to make something work actually have direct impact on ROI. We want to ensure that these situations are minimized. Peripherals should include all necessary adapters plates, fasteners, cabling, and even specialized tools and Allen keys to aid the customer in getting this up and running as fast as possible. Now, the software integration with cobots plays perhaps the most critical role in what we're trying to achieve here, and where the majority of our testing and validation takes place in the UR Plus program. We want to ensure that when the hardware is connected, that a user can control that peripheral in a way that makes sense to them and is as intuitive as controlling the robot. Once again, consistency in the user experience is extremely critical here. Now, there are, of course, several ways to do this, but at Universal Robots, we provide our developers with an SDK, or software development kit, that allows our developers and vendors to create software layers within our operating system towards this goal. This reduces the reliance on external HMIs, etc. For instance, we have a great example on the screen here for screw driving developed by one of our partners named Visomatic. As you can see, the menu and programming options directly relate to the functions of the tool in the natural language of the user. Your average employee could pick this up and pretty much know what to do with it without having much specialized training. This means that employees can now become more effective and efficient at lower cost. And another great example you'll see on the screen is the programming structure for setting up vision guidance with a Cognex camera. Now, while the base case on the left is still simpler than with most traditional robots, but as you can see, with the addition of the URCAP software layer on the right, the setup becomes much more intuitive and less complex. The programming tree is shorter, and once again, it's in the natural language of the user, so you spend your time setting up vision instead of trying to figure out programming. Now, to some degree, plug and play also implies DIY, or at least a nod towards do-it-yourself as a concept. This is especially important when it comes to documentation. We want to enable our customers to be able to install and control peripherals with minimal training and expertise from outside sources. Part of this, of course, is achieved in the inherent product and software design of the product, but documentation is extremely critical to customer experience and something we review and test for in UR+. At a minimum requirement for at least our program, documentation focuses on installation and control. As many specific applications are unique, they may require additional expertise, but at the minimum, we want the customer to be able to get up and running on their own and focus any support, training, and integration efforts on real-world implementation of the solution. This, of course, is changing for the better. And we spoke about software earlier. While our basic requirements are centered around installation and control of the peripheral, as our program continues to evolve and the marketplace continues to evolve, we're starting to see developers build additional functionality into the software layer, specifically targeting solving certain applications. As shown in the screenshot, for example, Robotique has created a sanding peripheral that goes beyond turning the sander on and off and actually guides the user to accomplish certain targeted tasks like sanding a curved surface at a certain force. We're continually encouraging this type of development to push this boundary of just how easy things can be. This is one of the benefits of a public API and an SDK, is that it allows our developers to transfer their subject matter knowledge directly into that user experience and further lower barriers of entry for our customers. By leveraging this development base, we're able to transfer generations worth of product and application knowledge to our customers at a pace that would be impossible otherwise. Now I think it's important to discuss how my company, Universal Robots Plus, helps actually facilitate plug and play through our UR Plus program to create the best customer experience possible. Over the past 3 years, the UR Plus program has evolved into the premier platform for cobot accessories. Over the next few slides, we'll discuss why and how that's important. Now, our core business objective, of course, is to sell more robots by bringing effective solutions to a broader base of customers in the marketplace. It's important to understand that UR Plus does not produce or sell plug-and-play peripherals. We produce and sell a robot arm. UR Plus is the platform that we work through to enable the marketplace to utilize our technology more effectively. This platform is based around an SDK and an API empowers developers to create and market solutions that are plug-and-play compatible with the #1 selling cobot in the marketplace. UR maintains the platform and supports our development partners to create and co-market these products to solve our customers' automation needs. Development and support of this platform and our UR Plus partners helps drive that core business objective. It's also important to understand that this platform, while centered around plug-and-play peripherals, creates numerous types of opportunities for our customers and partners. We, of course, have our product showroom highlighting the certified plug-and-play peripherals to our end customers and as well our channel partners. But we also have customers that make use of the SDK to create their own customized in-house solutions for customized end-of-arm tooling, user experience, etc. It's truly the power of the whole ecosystem working together that allows us to drive the latest technology to our customer base in a way that's approachable and generates a quick return for all parties involved. Now let's discuss a few benefits of the program. First of all, our developers, we provide a certification mechanism that allows for validation of their product in a way that could provide market access for technology they may not have on their own. We provide a mechanism to scale businesses and technology in the cobot space, generate leads, and development of new and exciting applications. This also has the benefit of exposing the latest technology available in that marketplace to our customers. Of course, for both our end users as well as our channel partners, plug-and-play peripherals lower cost and have direct impact on returns. By reducing the need for ad hoc, custom-engineered solutions, sales cycle is similarly accelerated, and our channel partners are better equipped to serve our customers quickly and at lower costs. This allows everyone to reduce the amount of time spent reinventing the wheel. And of course, for our end users, those benefits of plug-and-play impact ROI and the ability to DIY. But we also provide an effective platform to browse these peripherals to provide inspiration and answer that question, who you're going to call to find that solution. Now, we'll talk briefly about what our product criteria is for bringing something into UR Plus. And the main thing is this should be an accessory that augments that tool and expands its functionality. We're not talking about custom engineered robot sales. We're talking about accessories that help empower our customers. It also should feature a UR-Cap plug and enhance the functionality for a specific application, such as machine tending, for example. The other thing we want to make sure is that we use minimum one, but preferably as many interfaces to the robot as possible. That includes the hardware interfaces, software interfaces, and I/O. Okay? The user interface should be based on our graphical UI called Polyscope via the UR-Caps SDK, which is core to the UR Plus program. Once again, true to the idea of plug and play, setting up the product should be easy, and the product should be working flawlessly with the UR robot. The total user experience should be manageable for an inexperienced user. Now, core to this is our development process. We have dedicated personnel in each region to help guide developers through this. The idea here is to create an expectation of consistency and dependability for our customer base to help lower their implementation risk. In addition, we use this as a mechanism to continually evolve product requirements and drive innovation and differentiation in the marketplace. I like to think of our process as an overlay framework, kind of project management light, to work in conjunction with our developers' own product management methodologies to ensure that we meet each other's and our customers' expectations. Now, looking at this slide, you can see on the left there's 3 columns for UR Commercial, External Developer, and UR Technical. If you follow those across, that corresponds to the ownership of that part of the process. What we've done over the evolution of this program is drastically improve not only our documentation at these stages, but really enhance the commercial and technical scoping as well as our testing methodologies to ensure that our products move through the stage gate process, expectations are met, and that testing is valid for the customer. Maintaining the integrity of this process gives us a valuable tool. The UR Plus certification means several different things to different people. For a customer, they know that this product is certified to be plug and play, and thus the risk of purchasing products that work with our robot is greatly reduced. For our channel partners, it means that providers of plug-and-play peripherals have been vetted and have a solid go-to-market product and support strategy. Ultimately, this becomes a major differentiator for the UR ecosystem that we actually validate these products and has quickly become this global standard in the cobot marketplace. And it sounds great, I hope, but does it actually work? Now, since the launch of the program in 2016, when we had maybe 10 or so products, the adoption of this program in the development community, along with our customer base, has been astounding. The program officially started with fewer than a dozen small partners, and today we are working with hundreds of developers ranging from edgy, interesting startups all the way up to large, experienced multinational product companies. We now have over 170 certified products in the UR Plus showroom, with more than 400 companies actively developing using the software development kit. In addition, in 2018, we had over 500,000 unique visitors to the showroom seeking solutions to their automation problems. Now, of course, we're continuously evolving, but I just want to show a selection of our valuable partners. We continue to grow at an exponential pace and definitely look forward to the exciting technology that we're going to be able to bring through this program to the market in the near future. I want to thank you very much for your time today. I welcome your questions, and I hope this has been a valuable session.
Great, thanks very much. Our presenter, Ewing, will answer questions from the audience. So type your questions for the presenter in the Ask a Question box on your screen, and we'll get to as many questions as time allows. Questions that we do not get to today will be posted online at controleng.com with the archived version of the webcast. Remember to download a certificate of completion or a copy of the presentation by using the Event Resources tab on the left side of your screen. And now we'll get on to our questions. So, Early, is there any cost for joining the UR Plus program?
No, there actually isn't, and that's by design. So we want to create an open platform so that we have as much capability to bring that technology out of that development space to our customers as possible. The only requirements and cost, of course, is making it through those stage gate processes for validation. Of course, for any developer, that's going to incur some product development costs. But once again, our financial motivation in this program is to aid in getting more robots in the marketplace.
With plug-and-play robots, how is the safety of operators ensured without the safety of fencing?
So, of course, UR Robots as a cobot has many different features that are inherent in the design of the product that allow you to configure that robot's operation to validate your risk assessment. Now, just like any other industrial installation, if you add an end effector or even change the programming, it's going to change that risk assessment. So ultimately, it is up to the end user to make sure that that risk assessment is valid and that they've implemented the engineering process controls to satisfy that risk assessment. But it depends on the individual product that you're adding to the robot as to what its safety features are and how you can utilize that to solve that issue.
Good. Is UR Plus an open program? If I have a competing product to add, can I still join?
Yes, absolutely, and we encourage that. You know, I mean, with 170 products, there's obviously some competing ones out there. You know, in the gripping space, for instance. What we want to see is that competition start to come together, because what that ends up doing is driving innovation, driving development of that, you know, those enhancements to the software, those new ideas of capturing this market that ultimately trickle down value to our end customer being able to take advantage of new technology. So we not only expect it, we encourage it.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, that was it.
You mentioned a little bit about the kinds of products. Maybe you could go over that a little bit, just discuss the kinds of the diversity. There's a wide diversity of products there.
Yeah, so it's actually evolving in terms of categorization. I mean, the origins of plug and play really started with grippers, right? Okay, I got a robot, it doesn't really do anything, it moves around, so how do I manipulate a part? So we started seeing at first a lot of grippers come online. Then we were seeing offline programming software, simulation software, which we still are seeing. Now these days we have vision systems on there, even other types of accessories, protective suits, sensing devices, you name it. Even artificial intelligence is starting to enter the foray.
Very cool. Why did UR decide to engage third parties to act as developers instead of doing the whole system themselves?
Well, it's kind of analogous to an app store on a cellular phone, right? A phone manufacturer doesn't make all the apps that you use every day, your social media apps, all that kind of stuff. And smartphones, for example, weren't particularly successful until application ecosystem started to come into play. We obviously recognize that in the robot marketplace as well. Once again, it's about accessing as much diversity in that development environment and creating a platform to bring that to customers to create value. And we're a growing company and a market leader in the cobot space, but there's still an incredible amount of power that we would not be able to access without taking this approach.
So it's come a long way in a short amount of time. What are you seeing as the future of plug-and-play peripherals in the marketplace? Is it going to continue to get easier, more diverse? What's going to happen, do you think?
Well, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Kind of the first stage with a lot of these products is, okay, how do I make the control of that peripheral plug and play and simple? What we're seeing now as the ecosystem continues to evolve is really a lot of emphasis on that software layer that helps bridge the application considerations into not only controlling the tool, but being able to solve problems in a way that's simpler and simpler. What that does is bridge that experience gap and get people closer and closer to being able to deploy a robot system quickly to actually solve a problem.
And I would imagine that there's been some migration and development in products that have been on the UR Plus area of the website.
For sure. I mean, with 170 projects, we don't have 170 developers. And I hope I understand the question. But we're starting to see a lot of developers that have been around and launched their first product, starting to launch their second, third, fourth product, and doing continuous improvement on those products. Is that the question you were trying to ask?
Yeah, the migration, the development, the advancement. Good.
Great.
Well, what are the criteria for becoming a developer? So if I'm a technology provider in robotics and might want to join the ecosystem, how might I go about doing that?
So we spoke earlier about some of the general requirements of what a UR Plus product is, as well as talking about the stage gates. So one of the first steps is to sign up as a developer on our UR Plus website at universal-robots.com and click on UR Plus and become a developer. The other thing is, through that process, you reach out and our commercial team, depending on which region the development is being done in, starts off with that original commercial scoping where we talk about what the potential gaps are in the ecosystem for this particular product, what your idea is, your go-to-market strategy, what you think we can access, so that we can try to refine that go-to-market strategy and that product development strategy inside of our ecosystem so that both companies are as successful as possible and we have a need that we can serve for our customers.
So Other robotic manufacturers have partner programs. What are the advantage of the UR Plus platform versus similar platforms emerging in the marketplace?
Well, we actually encourage it, and the more that the entire marketplace starts to think about peripherals in terms of plug and play, I think that only does good for us. I think one of our significant advantages here, other than being a first mover in this, we have a very large ecosystem that's becoming more and more mature, is that software development kit and that API is something that's fairly unique in the marketplace into how open we make our platform and really enable those developers to realize their vision within that product platform.
For those developing accessories or products, how long might it take to certify a UR Plus accessory?
Well, it depends. So a lot of it is based around not only the resource requirements for the developer, there is some backlog that occasionally occurs depending on what projects we're already working on. But really, it's the time to go through those gates. The better prepared and the more professional of a product management organization that the developer has, usually the quicker it is. It was somewhat more ambiguous in the earlier parts of the program, but these days we have pretty defined requirements at each of those gates to achieve. But every project's going to be a little bit different depending on how complex it is. When you look at some of the more application-based projects, those could take six months to a year. To do a gripper or a simple I/O control, but translate into the language of the user, that could be a matter of weeks or a month.
Specifically on sensors and actuators, what types of sensors and actuators do the robots have currently? For the example, the robot in the picture, what does it come equipped with, and what might the UR Plus platform provide or add to it?
So the robot itself, what you see pictured, is a collaborative robot. And the sensor that we include in the E-Series robot, which is our most recent product, is a force torque sensor that's built into the robot. But in terms of light curtains and optical sensors, encoders, that kind of thing, usually all that stuff is going to be an accessory. Now, what is included in every universal robot is all the I/O that you would need to hook up whatever you want. So we have TCP/IP, discrete Ethernet IP, discrete I/O, all that stuff that you would need. There's no additional modules to buy or anything like that. But for your application, depending on the peripheral, most everything is going to be on UR Plus, or of course you have the ability to put non-UR Plus accessories onto the robot, control those with I/O as well. But we focus on manufacturing and selling a robot arm.
Sure. Is UR able to help participating companies find a developer for the SDK work in the event that there's a constraint on engineering resources?
Yeah, absolutely. We depending on what part of the world you're in, and we have several. We have a program that we established called the Developer to Developer program. And they have various contracts. It's something that the developer would enter into with this developer, but we vet them to make sure that they know what they're doing when it comes to our SDK and our API. So if we have, we run into an engineering constraint during the scoping of a product with one of our development partners, and they decide that they would like to seek an outside resource, we have different companies that we can refer them to help facilitate that we work closely with.
Right. What's a typical time frame for a developer joining the UR Plus program until a finished certified device is deployed? I'd imagine it depends on complexity, but maybe you can give us an idea.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's going to depend on the engineering resources and how equipped they are to move through those stage gates, backlog, all that kind of stuff. I'd say a general rule for a medium complexity project, if we can get as gray as possible there, is probably about 6 months. But
Right.
the important thing to remember is most of the development work is driven by the developer. Our product management process is an overlay. It doesn't replace the developer's product management process. So whatever resources they have to throw at that is really the governor of the speed.
And you did mention certification. What does UR do to make sure that it all works together nicely?
So we have a pretty extensive validation process. What we don't certify is that it will solve your application necessarily. The primary, and it's a standard program of testing and certification where we first make sure that it fits the scope of the program. We look at the UI and make sure that everything matches up to what our expectations were, but primarily it's about compatibility with the operating system and the SDK to make sure that if you hook this up, maybe in combination with some other things, nothing breaks, and the software plugin doesn't crash the robot software itself.
Yes, you want to make sure it actually works when you plug and play. Good.
Right, and we also validate for plug and play. We validate the unboxing experience. We duplicate that. We look at what parts come in the box. We review the documentation. And the final step of validation goes on the commercial side to make sure that the go-to-market strategy is solid and that when customers are interested in the product, they can actually purchase it with a lead time that is analogous to what we can provide with our robots.
Wow. So you actually have them give you products and then you unbox them just as if you were a customer.
Absolutely.
Do you foresee any domestic use of these products?
Meaning robots in the home or domestic in terms of in the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The question's a little vague. Maybe answer both.
What I would say is our primary market is the industrial market. If somebody's got the cash, I guess you could use it to do something around the home. But typically, with any industrial project, you're looking at installing this robot that's going, along with the accessories, it's going to produce some sort of return on investment. It's typically tied to a revenue stream.
Perhaps discuss country-to-country availability in case domestic had that meaning.
Yes. So of course our robots are available globally. We have a global distribution network. And in terms of the plug-and-play accessories, that goes into part of the validation and certification of their go-to-market strategy. We have some products that don't show up on the website in another country that might show up in the U.S., right? And that's driven by, our evaluation and their own assertion of where they can deliver their product.
Is your SDK open source?
It's an open SDK, yes.
Good. And by open source, you maybe define that because people have different understanding of what that might mean. So it's an open platform. There's some core functionality that you can't access within the SDK. I would probably be getting a little bit out of my depth on specifics of that. If the listener has a specific question about what they can or cannot access, please let us know. But there are several different layers of functionality depending on the complexity that you want to get into on that. Some critical robot motion functions and critical safety functions are not open in the SDK, and that's simply to preserve the features that we have built into the robot. Well, we've got a lively discussion going here on the live webcast. Please keep the questions coming. We've got a lot of good ones in queue yet. As the UR Cobot product range advances, updates and expands, how might this impact existing UR Plus plug-and-play options? Would they also need to be updated by the UR manufacturing partners? Right. So they're responsible for maintaining their software along with the latest updates, depending if they're going to stay marketed on the website. We also have a quality assurance program and a business review program in place with our UR Plus partners to ensure that they're keeping up
with the latest software updates. That includes, of course, a beta access program and things like that.
Good. And then a great follow-on question: do you have training for their engineering department? So end users or developers want to get involved. Is there training available?
So there's a couple different layers of assistance that we provide. First, we do not write source code at UR, and that's for intellectual property and ownership of that and support of that product, right? The most basic layer and probably the most effective layer for learning more about the SDK is the development forum, which can be accessed at the same website I mentioned earlier on universal-robots.com, which is a resource for developers to interact through a forum, download the SDK, download the associated documentation, etc. Now, when we talk about products that are going to have a commercial intent, okay, somebody wants to sell this, somebody wants to list it on our website, that goes into the stage gate process where a dedicated, what we call UR Plus implementation engineer, will help guide the developer through those technical portions of the stage gate, and the commercial UR personnel will help guide that developer through the commercial aspects of that stage gate process.
Great. And as developed products become successful and commercialized, how are the economic benefits divided?
So we don't take a cut off the sale of any UR Plus products. We don't sell the UR Plus products. Our commercial involvement is limited to co-marketing and cross-promotion of these products. So, you're a gripper manufacturer, you sell grippers, you get all the proceeds from those sales.
Very good.
We sell robots.
Let's see. What are the advanced? Let's see. There's some. Okay. How many internal resources do you have dedicated to certifying UR Plus certified products? Would there be a long queue?
It depends on the region. We tend to have enough people to do the work. There's always a little bit of lead time behind stuff, but the process is fairly well refined. At a minimum, you're going to have a commercial and a technical resource because the required expertise is a little bit different for each portion of the stage gate process.
Sure. Oh, here's one about applications. What is the room temperature limitation for a cobot operation? Could it work, for instance, in a 20-degree Fahrenheit room temperature?
Oh, you're going back to my spec sheet days. I believe the maximum temperature ambient of the robot is maybe 50 C. But I'd have to double check. I think it's 50 degrees Celsius. And on the lower end, which
all that documentation is available on the website.
All the documentation is available on the website. Or if there's any other specific questions like that about specs, feel free to reach out to us and we can answer those. I think the lower limit is 32 Fahrenheit. But there are UR Plus products, for instance, like temperature-controlled sleeves and that kind of thing that can help augment the capabilities in certain types of environment. I think the answer was, can it go down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah. Let's see. Here's a question about how code is distributed. What about the backup of code? Can I back up and update using cloud download as well as plug-in eDisk? So I'm not sure if that refers to the UR Plus peripherals or the robot, but
I'll say because not all robots are connected, depending on the manufacturing environment. Most of the UR Plus software plugins are installed on the robot by plugging a USB drive into the teach pendant, and then there's a procedure to install from there, just like you'd be installing a program on a computer.
Good. Um, let's see. What are some of the advantages of the let's see, I think we did that one. The advantages of the program versus similar platforms. Yeah, we covered that. Okay. So training for engineers on code implementation to handle our in-house operations.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you've got a lot of training modules on your website.
Yeah, so most of the training modules on the UR Plus website that are outside of the development forum are geared towards the operation and programming of the robot. If you want to use the SDK, your first source for in-house development is going to be that forum. And then once again, if there's a specific requirement on something, get in touch with us.
Okay, good. So since you started in sales, you must have had a lot of questions in the field. When people were first approaching the forum or the idea of having an app store for peripherals, what are some of the common questions or maybe misconceptions that you had to clear up?
Well, the biggest thing that I noticed is that when the program was launched, as a salesperson, the ecosystem was much smaller, right? So we were getting a lot of questions about, well, I see these products, but I don't see something that lets me do this. When is that going to be on UR Plus? And we were getting a lot of things from people that, had maybe gotten a taste of the user experience with grippers and some of the other earlier, more obvious products. But, we spent a lot of time working with our distribution channels and with our customers to find products to hit their specific needs. As the ecosystem's growing, we're starting to see more and more demand for that plug-and-play experience, with our primary target customer, as opposed to the, that first reaction of, okay, we got to custom engineer something. Now I think what we see sometimes more so with our customers is them first off the bat asking for a plug-and-play solution and then looking to go down the custom engineered route.
Great. For those new to robotics or to Universal Robots specifically, would you want to address the capital versus the life cycle costs and the value of the plug-and-play offers? I know you addressed value quite a bit in the presentation.
Well, yeah, I think that comes down into implementation costs, right? Hardware costs are one thing, and if you look at traditional robotics, that's only the tip of the iceberg when you talk about custom engineering solutions and reinventing the wheel, programming, etc. So what plug and play really does is get rid of that stuff, as much of that stuff as possible beneath the waterline, so that your total implementation cost goes way down, which drives your returns up and also greatly increases the speed of your ROI. So hardware costs may be somewhat similar, right? But a lot of the real value is in that ease of implementation, which of course has a dollar value associated with it, quite a big one usually.
Great. If anyone has any other questions for the live webcast, please submit those now. I have a few others in queue here to consider. Maybe you could give a few examples early of customer jobs made easier through the diversity and innovative peripherals that are available for the robots.
Well, I think one of my favorites, and I always give them a plug because it's a really great and applicable product, is a company called VersaBuilt, who took a look at machine tending, and they're a machine shop. And, they've implemented many different brands of robots, and they're like, how can we make this easier with Haas machines? So what they did was they wrote a UR cap, which is what we call our software layer, included an Ethernet cable and a relay, or a serial connector, depending on what model of machine you have, and wrote a program that allows you to plug and play and install the robot with a Haas CNC machine in literally a couple of hours. And it's something that when I started with the company years ago, we would have to look at and be like, okay, well, where's the I/O connection to these CNCs? What all do we have to do on this? And it's truly plug and play, meshing the robot with that piece of equipment. On top of that, of course, you can plug and play grippers, and you can really be up and tending a CNC machine in about half a day now, which is incredible.
Oh, that sounds great. Here's another question. Are there any apps for using operator input via the pendant? Part, program, select, bump box, sensor status, that sort of thing?
I mean, for sure. I think I don't know if I can answer that question without having a couple more specifics about exactly what the listener's trying to figure out. But of course, there's certainly, when it comes to the UI, the ability to incorporate all that stuff.
Good. Let's see. What is the maximum speed that cobots can go? So not necessarily about the peripherals, but the speed of the cobots.
Well, that depends. I mean, when it comes to collaborative robots, I think sometimes there's a misconception that they always are slower than industrial robots. That could be true in some cases, but really, collaborative speed in an application versus the risk, per the risk assessment, may be different than what the physical hardware is capable of doing. And of course, that's available in our spec sheet, but I believe, if I recall, it's 180 degrees per second per joint. So we usually say it'll go up to about 1 meter per second, but that depends on your motion planning.
Very good. Did you want to address anything about the robot motors in the system, or transmission, or the motion control involved? Certainly,
I think if we're getting that specific, we should probably take it offline, and we'd be happy to address the listeners' questions to the degree we can, or what's not proprietary.
Great. Okay, and then I don't know. We're getting near the top of the hour. Certainly, people can go ahead and submit additional questions. Maybe you'd like to up with a few key takeaways from the presentation. There's a lot of value in applying robotics to become more efficient, and certainly there's a wide array of peripherals that are easy to apply and get going. What do you want people to remember from today's presentation?
The main thing I think that I want to highlight is that the paradigm is changing, and that the community in robotics and industrial equipment is really starting to recognize the value of making things easy rather than hard. And for years, it's been pretty much acceptable for it to be difficult. But now, as we come into a time where that more of a consumer experience is kind of the norm in people's minds, this is a great opportunity for robot companies and manufacturers and developers of peripherals to really tap into that. And it doesn't have to be hard. We have the tools to make it easy. Let's do the work.
So following on to that point early, what's the range of customers you have? Certainly this is appealing for somebody who doesn't apply robotics before, but I could see a lot of advantage for somebody who have robotics experts on staff.
Absolutely. I mean, return on investment is return on investment. It doesn't matter if it's a two-person machine shop or a company with 100,000 employees. Those cost savings still mean something. And easier is still easier.
Very good. Any other questions that weren't asked that you would like to highlight, or anything you think might have been asked that you'd like to cover?
I think we've covered, the broad points, specific to kind of what we set out to today. There do seem to be a lot of questions, and I absolutely urge everybody to submit them and get them over to us so that we can get everybody responds to, especially some of the specific technical stuff. We're absolutely happy to get in touch and cover that. And please feel free to visit our website and reach out to us, and we'll get right on it.
Well, great. Thank you, Early, for your expertise today. And I'd also like to extend special thanks to our sponsor, Universal Robots, for sponsoring today's event. And now that we're just about done, we want to hear how we did. The exit survey will pop up on the screen as soon as the webcast ends. And please take a moment to complete it, because we use this information to improve our webcasts. Finally, on behalf of Control Engineering and CFE Media, I'd like to thank you for attending. This concludes our webcast. Thank you, and goodbye.